I'm Daniel, the past life regressionist, and it's time to begin.
Lift off and the clock has started.
This is Timeless Spirituality. Enjoy Eternity Time.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Timeless Spirituality. It is time for another new episode, and I have recently updated my website, so go on and check it out to get all of the 411 information on my new past life regression method, the Expanse method. It is something really, really special. I'm so excited about it, and I just can't wait to get it out to the world more. So go check it out at thepastliferegressionist.com. And I just want to give a shout out to my web designer, Kaylee, over from Eclectic Design. She is great, guys. I've worked with her now for the last year and a half, and she's just amazing. And there's no deal that I got on the website to say this. You know, there was no, hey, I'll give you $500 off if you give me a shout out. Nothing. I paid full price. She's just that great. So everyone go check her out. She's amazing. With all of that said, if you would like to book a regression with me to discover who and where you have been throughout time, you could reach me on Instagram with the Past Life Regressionist, or go ahead and book through my website at thepastliferegressionist.com. And now it's time to begin. Last thing. I think I'm going to go back to weekly episodes now. I'm just feeling it, so just tune in every week. And now it's time to begin. Dana, welcome back to the show. How are you doing tonight?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me, Daniel. Happy to be back.
You're very welcome, and thank you for being here. Very robotic, because as you and I were just talking about, we've been talking for a little while. Wanted to bring you on to do a impromptu episode. Yet we don't know what we're going to talk about, which is always fun, always daunting as a host. And it's like going in the Wild West. And with that, Dana, you want to just give your elevator pitch for who is Dana?
Ooh, elevator pitch. Where'd that term come from? Honestly, do you know? I mean, I'll do an elevator pitch, but that's an interesting phrase, don't you
100
think?
floors. You're at about the 15th floor right now.
Okay, so I'm running out of time. Is the long story short. Okay, so you want me to be fast? I'm a lawyer. That's what takes up most of my time. I'm also a philosopher. I got my bachelor's in philosophy from UCLA. I specialized in ancient Greek philosophy, which I love. I didn't find philosophy. Philosophy found me, although I guess you could say we found each other. I took one class in it and I was hooked. It just happened to fit my schedule. But as soon as I did it, there was just something amazing about it. And I really didn't care that I didn't know at that time whether I could go anywhere with it. I am also a musician, a singer, a lover of animals, and somebody that has, let's just say I've dipped my toes into everything spiritual and religious, while also being a devout Catholic, lover of God, believer in Jesus Christ, while also realizing that, at least in my opinion, that all religions, all spirituality of all different types do not have to necessarily be completely separate, but I view everything as just being a different branch of the same tree. And I believe there's something greater than all of us that is the trunk and or the roots of it all. And beyond that, I am just living my life one day at a time and exploring. And that's my elevator pitch. I'm pretty sure we passed my floor. But
that's about the Burj Khalifa right there, the one
right
in Dubai. Yeah,
that
was good though.
I don't know
Thank
what
you.
that is, but okay.
It's the world's tallest building.
Oh, yeah.
They just keep adding on to it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, neither here nor there right now.
Cool, but yeah, don't know anything about it.
So you mentioned that you got your bachelor's in philosophy, correct?
Yes.
In ancient Greek philosophy.
Well, I did a little bit of everything, but that was the gist of it.
All right. So we have an elevator ride back down. I want you to tell me who your favorite philosopher is and why.
Well, that'd be Socrates. I named my late and beloved toy chihuahua after Socrates. I love Socrates because he didn't have any preconceived notions about what truth was or about what the natural world around him was or science met everything. He was not somebody that went out preaching truths. He was somebody that went out asking questions and challenging people, not based on what he knew, but just asking people questions to try and figure out what they knew. And people really didn't like him for that because a lot of people who called themselves out as professionals in their field, when he was not a professional in any of these fields, he asked them questions they couldn't answer. And there's something about that process that I have always found beautiful and intriguing and motivating in my own life.
How do you apply the Socratic method to your own life? And also with that, can you explain what the Socratic method is?
The Socratic method is simple. You ask questions. And it's definitely more complicated than that. But the Socratic method is all about figuring out what, or at least being honest with ourselves about what we don't know in order to get closer to what we might be able to know. It's not a method with an agenda. It's an open-ended method where anybody, whatever your spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs, education, it is something that can bring each and every one of us closer to knowing ourselves and the world around us. And dare I say truth, even though I think that's a loaded word.
How do you apply it to your own life?
To be honest with you, I've always been like a natural as far as asking a lot of questions and just questioning everything. I remember I used to get in trouble all the time in elementary school for raising my hand and asking questions before I let the teacher finish explaining the assignment. Like this was a normal thing with me. I'll never forget my mom telling me, you have to let the teacher finish explaining the assignment before you raise your hand asking questions. And I remember so many times that I would, and this is especially when I was very young, but being told that I had to do things and like, this is how things are done. And I would always ask, why? But why? And that was something that was very natural to me. And so then when I got much older and at, high school, let's fast forward to high school. And I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I was in AP physiology. It's friggin' senior year. I was dissecting human cadavers. AP physiology. I was doing it all. And I realized that's not for me. And then I didn't know what to do. And so even though I had a very, very high GPA and could have gone anywhere I wanted to, I went to junior college before I went to UCLA for the first couple of years to find myself. And that's when that part of me that I believe was always with me from when I came out the womb, that part of me that always asked questions, like kind of found a home in philosophy. And it didn't matter at that point that I didn't know what I was going to do with it because it just all made sense. And so I just went with it. And I graduated with my degree and was like, what now? And I was like, well, we do live in, I live Los Angeles, California, and I need to pay the bills. And I was like, all right, let's go to law school. And I've been a lawyer for 12 years now. So I think that brings you up to speed.
All right, another elevator pitch. What's your philosophy on justice? Being an attorney and also a Libra.
That depends on how you define justice.
How do you define justice?
Well, whose justice is it? The justice for the criminal rightfully accused, wrongfully accused, justice for potential family members of victims, justice for the rest of the world and population that watches it all on social media and wants to see justice and balance restored on a collective level. Do you want to narrow it down? Justice is a big word. We can use it all. I mean, we can use it for all its applications, but you're the host, Daniel. So your call.
So I just had an idea as you were talking. Is you and I have had numerous conversations over the years about, well, a topic that I personally don't believe gets enough attention. Gets a little bit of attention every couple months or so, but it then becomes an afterthought. What are your feelings on capital punishment? Or, in other words, the death penalty?
That's one I've been struggling with. And I will be honest with you, pretty much as soon as I was able to vote, my mom got me into voting. I can't tell you exactly how old I was, but I remember that in California, there was something on the ballot about doing away with the death penalty. And even at that age, I grappled with it. And my initial thought was the taking of a life can never balance out the taking of a life. Nobody should take a life. But then I don't even remember who it was I talked to, but they said something very smart. Actually, I think it was an attorney. And I was definitely not even in law school yet. But this was an attorney that worked in criminal law and had been around and been exposed to a lot of people that did some very heinous things. And this person said to me, some people just can't be rehabilitated. Some people just are monsters. And when I heard it, it made sense because I thought about a lot of the heinous crimes and stuff I'd always seen. And how could I not agree with her? And so I'll be honest, when I voted that time, I voted to keep the death penalty going strong. And I've changed since then. But this is a hard one for me because there is something deeply rooted in me that makes me feel like, how do we bring about justice by taking the life of somebody that took one or multiple lives? And this is even a question that I go back and forth on. But there is still some in me that can't help but feel like if we are taking a life ourselves because somebody else did, how does that not make us just as bad as them? Because we took the life second and they took it first, because we're smart, because we're all put together, because more organized as far as the government, politically speaking. I mean, I don't even know, but I guess at the root of it is, how do you justify one wrong act by committing the same wrong act? And I'm not talking in magnitude or, I mean, clearly there's a difference between capital punishment and somebody that committed, murder that is brutal, and, there are no words to even express it. But at the end of the day, how is the taking of a life justice in exchange for the taking of a life? How is that justice as opposed to just vengeance? Because I think that those two words, while they have very different connotations, the lines can be blurred oftentimes.
Well, what do you feel the spiritual implications are with regards to the death penalty?
When you say spiritual, are you referring to anything spiritual, religious? Do you have a specific, what do you mean by spiritual? Because I want to make, for me, just given who I am, I want to make sure that if I'm, these are hard questions. And I think it's very important, not just for us, but for the audience, that we make sure that the audience and both of us understand what we're referring to when we use the word spiritual, especially in a context like this.
I think a better word actually would be metaphysical. What are the what do you believe the metaphysical implications are to the death penalty?
Yeah, I can roll with metaphysical all day.
All right. And also, I mean, I think you can do this beautifully. Can you explain what the word metaphysical means for the audience? Because I think they hear that word a lot, but don't know what it means.
And metaphysical is like the root nature of things, the root nature of human existence, of the existence of everything we know around us. It's understanding the deeper level and explanation for what everything is. You look at a lot of philosophers, especially the earlier ones, and what is everything made of? And now we all know we have atoms and all this stuff. I'm not a biologist, but there were a lot of philosophers and the metaphysical philosophers. Some believed that everything was made from fire. Others believed water. Others believed air. I could go on forever, but it's about understanding the very nature of the existence of everything that is at a very fundamental level.
So with that said, what do you feel the metaphysical implications are with the death penalty specifically?
Unfortunately, or fortunately, I think the metaphysics of the death penalty are actually easier than the metaphysics of like the nature and origins of existence. The metaphysics of the death penalty are very simple. The death penalty is the conscious choice to take someone else's life because we believe that they deserve it. And that's not to say whether they do or don't. And I say that I'm not saying that people that have murdered a lot might not deserve it. I struggle with that myself, but what I am saying is that if we're going to cut down to the core what the death penalty is, it's the taking of a life because the justice system, meaning the jury, especially if you're here in California or the United States, believe that somebody deserves to die and we should be executioner.
What do you think that does to a person to make that decision?
Which person you're talking to? The person on the jury, the district attorney, the person prosecuting, the judge, the legislatures, the people that made the laws. I mean, who?
In the courtroom, who is the person or persons that make the decision whether or not someone gets the death penalty?
It's the jury. Well, and the judge.
All right, so judge and jury.
Judge and jury. Depends on what state you're in, and it's different everywhere. But at the end of the day, and I think it's important that we don't keep it so geographically. I think it'd be better if we don't keep it so geographically pinned, because at the end of the day, the metaphysics of the death penalty are, I think, simple, and that's that one or more humans decide that another human deserves to die because of their actions, and that decision leads to them personally, usually not, but somebody else actually carrying out that decision. It's the taking of a life for the taking of a life.
Let me reframe the question. Do you think that that is a choice to be made by a human being?
Personally?
It's your opinion here. 100%.
No.
Why not?
Because if the justice system and the government, and let's put it this way, for a long time, the government, the justice system has operated this way. It has evolved. It has changed in many different ways across different places, different countries, even different states. But I think that if people would take a second to think about what it is at its very root system and foundation, they might think twice. Because I would hope that if I asked anybody out there, if somebody stabs you in the heart, would justice to you equal stabbing them back in the heart? And I hope most people would say no. I don't know what most people would say, but at least for me, I don't see justice in that. I see vengeance. I see pain, understandable pain, and an understandable desire for vengeance. But do I see justice in that? No. I see pain. I see revenge. I see vengeance.
It's pain perpetuating more pain.
But I also get the person who had to experience that pain or who lost a loved one.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, if somebody stabs you in the heart, which is what it would feel like to lose someone you love more than anything, especially if it's violent or sudden, I understand the anger and the pain. But is it really justice? Is an eye for an eye really justice? Or is it vengeance? And how would that justice and or vengeance or whatever you want to call it, how would or could or will that actually move us forward collectively to a better place.
Are you asking?
I absolutely am. What do you think?
I don't believe that it will move us forward, because when I look at that situation in particular of the person stabbing someone, now my first question to you would be, was it a simple stabbing or were they killed? And when I say simple, I mean, did they survive?
Very few people get the death penalty unless they took a life.
Okay. So in that situation, it was someone who killed someone and they died from that stab, correct?
Yeah.
So, one, I think it is always important to understand the root cause of something, because if you don't understand what caused it, then history is just doomed to repeat itself. With that said, the person who did the stabbing could have had an awful life, could have had horrible things done to them, things that were out of their control, things that when we look at as a fellow human being, that happening to another human being, we could have compassion for what they have experienced. But as a society, I think it is important to also say, just because I understand that you went through some shit and that was horrible, we can't tolerate you going around killing people. So I personally do not believe in the death penalty, because I think it just perpetuates the cycle of violence. If we keep killing, when does it stop? That's why still I believe we need to understand the root cause of something and move forward as a society and address those issues individually or collectively, because I think even if you address it on an individual level, you're going to start making small changes that will then bubble into a collective level. But there have to be consequences for actions. But I don't believe taking someone else's life is ever the answer, because with my belief in other lives, I feel that is something that will follow us around in one form or another. Even being the person sitting on that jury, I can't imagine what that would be like to make that choice to say, yes, that person should die. One, what are you driven by? What emotions are driving you to say yes or no? Is it something that happened to you personally and you are just drawing from that experience? Is it something you saw and are drawing from that experience? Are you a complete sociopath and just saying, I just want to see everyone, be hurt? I don't know how that works for them. But what about, quick question, does that decision need to be unanimous in the state of California? I know you don't know how it works.
Or in criminal law, yes.
So everyone on that jury has to say, yes, that person must die.
Well, yes, convicting guilty in California in criminal law. Yes.
But what about for the sentencing?
They can recommend the death penalty, but that's ultimately on the judge. The judge usually goes with the jury. But
does it need to be a unanimous decision, though, to recommend the death penalty?
In criminal law, yes, it does.
Okay. Well, then I guess everyone on that jury made that choice then.
No, but can I comment on that quickly? Only because, is that okay?
Yeah. What you got?
As a philosopher and somebody who has really gone back and forth on this for a while until I finally found my place in my personal belief that I do not believe in the death penalty, I am still able to understand where a jury, or especially the loved ones, might come from if they lost someone they love, especially under horrific circumstances. And I don't even need to give examples here, but I will. I mean, let's just say your loved one is found naked and raped, strangled. I'll just leave it at that. But let's just say that there are many human beings out there that have committed atrocities that are even more atrocious than that. And I think that anyone on a jury that is witnessing and seeing something like this, I think what it probably comes back to for them are their own children, their own wives, their own sisters and brothers, their own aunts and uncles, and imagining what that would do to them if that was their family member. And then to think about those family members that have to sit and relive that, not to mention deal with it and live forever with what happened. I think that any juror that has to sit through a trial like that and make that decision, and any family member that has been through it, understandably wants justice. I get that decision. And I have not been there. Thank God for that. But what I do think about, and the one thing that does really, really sit with me. And the reason that I am against the death penalty is because my thought is, to what end? If this horrible human being that committed these atrocious acts is put to death, what does that change? Who does that help? How does that bring justice? Where is the justice in it? Will that bring back the person that was taken? Is it not too easy to just take somebody's life? And what about the people that actually have to actively take that life? Would it not be more torment for that person to have to sit locked up in a jail cell and think about what they did for the rest of their lives in a prison where they're literally locked in a box, locked in their own head, their own thoughts? And I know that's going to cost a lot of taxpayer dollars, which people are worried about, and understandably so. But this is life we're talking about.
Well, look, really quick, there's also an argument to be made that it is more costly to have someone on death row because of the appeals process and how much that costs.
Well, not with the new and creative methods of execution that are getting.
No, they're still sitting on death row for 30 plus years.
Well, I don't know if you've recognized, Daniel, but things have picked up in most states, especially in the last couple of years. And now we got nitrogen hypoxia. The good old firing squad is back. And to be honest with you, I like that. Like, here's the thing. I'm really not for a life, but I feel like if we're going to do that shit, if we're actually going to do that, which I get why a lot of people are for
really
that.
Quick, you're for the firing squad, not for nitrogen hypoxia, right?
Oh, I am not for nitrogen hypoxia.
So really quick, for everyone, this is going to get a little graphic. Well, not really, but okay. Anyways, nitrogen hypoxia is where instead of a gas chamber per se, what they do is they strap a mask on your face and literally pump in, I believe it's nitrogen, which, please correct me here, Dana, if I'm wrong, but it basically sucks the oxygen out of you. And correct?
It's just pure nitrogen with no oxygen, and so you suffocate.
You suffocate, exactly.
And the most recent nitrogen hypoxia, it took 47 minutes for this person to die.
And a lot of the reason that the states say that they do this is because it's cheaper than other methods and more readily available than cocktails. Long story short, I think it's barbaric. And I wonder about still this word karma. We can spend a whole other episode getting into the word karma. But I think of those implications that follow you from life to life. The feeling of taking another life. And I just feel that the cycle needs to stop at some point. That at some point, we just need to say enough is enough. Just like you were saying, let him sit in prison. And there's also an argument to be made that that person will never think about it while they're sitting in prison. They won't give two shits about the horrible thing that they did, because a lot of people are just really messed up in the head. Let's call a spade a spade. Some people they're just less than human. We'll put it that way. They may look like a human. I'm not saying they're an alien, but they just don't think the way that most of us think.
Or they're just really, really broken human. Real broken.
Yes.
Everything.
Whatever the reason.
Can be broken. But
yes,
it doesn't
everything
make
can be,
less
but it does.
It is.
Exactly. It does not excuse what the crime is.
Still needs to be recalled, taken off the market, or otherwise dealt with. I'm not going to say that that's not the case. But
exactly. So I think it's important to think deeper about this. What are the implications of what we can't see? Because I, for one, this is where I'm going to be a little selfish when it comes to what we carry from life to life. I don't want to have to deal with the fallout or consequences of a choice that I made in another life that may have not been so pretty. I know it's all one big learning experience and that we grow from any situations that we find ourselves in, but I want to do better. I don't want to perpetuate hurt. I don't want to make the choice for someone to live or die, because I also don't personally believe that is my choice. I believe in a higher power. But to play devil's advocate for a second, me being a believer of God, universe, creator of all it is, whatever you want to call it, I do believe that that presence, being whatever it may be, is the one who ultimately makes that choice. But how is their will carried out? So I do wonder if someone on death row in this life is only sitting on death row because they got away with something in another life? And what if the consequences to those actions are being met in this life and are being balanced out? I don't believe that, this thing karma is eye for an eye necessarily. Like you were saying earlier, I don't believe it's, well, if you kill someone, then that person gets to kill you. I don't believe that that's the way that it is. But I do wonder at a certain point, how does God's will be carried out? Is it through our actions, or is it through a lightning strike or a freak accident in a car when it's only one driver in there, or so on and so forth? So I think those are things to be taken into consideration as well. And it's not to say, oh, well, I'm acting out God's will right now. I think that that's a load of shit. If you're the one saying you're making or proclaiming, I'm just doing this to carry out God's will. Well, how do you know? How do you know? Or are you just a sociopath who thinks that you've been given the keys to say, well, I'm going to kill this person because, I want to, and that's why I became fill in the blank officer to do this, and it makes me feel powerful and strong, and I've been given the power to do this? Or, as you may think, carrying out God's will. So I know I gave you a lot to work with there, Dana. You take it wherever you want to take it.
Well, I'll start by saying that I don't know either. I don't know for sure. And I kind of think that's the point of being alive. I think that's why God gave us free will, while he's still within it, a part of it, around us always. And but I still wonder myself. And I think it's that wondering that is key for growth on both an individual, a collective level. Like, I'll just say the story of David and Goliath. And, then even David's story after he took down Goliath. And yeah, I'm using an Old Testament biblical example here.
Nothing wrong with that.
My religious belief, but David killed a lot of Philistines. And if you believe the Bible, it's the instruction and by the power of God. And at the same time, it doesn't feel like that was an eye for an eye. And so I wonder sometimes what it all means. But I just think that the biggest issue comes from any one of us, whether individually, part of a jury, part of a county, state, country, political system, worldview. I believe we all need to just stop following the herd so much. Sorry for the metaphor. And start listening, not just to ourselves, but I, for one, believe that God's always nudging us, talking to us. I don't think he yells. And even if you want to call it your conscience, I think that's kind of the point of life, is that we don't have to get so boggled down in certain viewpoints or doctrines. I believe personally that God and faith and the answers will find us on an individual level, and that our influence and our impact on everybody around us is going to be instrumental. It's just about listening to those little voices, those little nudges, and trying to make a difference. And that's not easy, especially when what you might be feeling, or those little nudges might be like making you feel in a way that like not all your friends or colleagues or just anybody else might feel. But it's like you gotta listen, I think, at least, those little nudges and voices. And the second thing I would say is that, because I know you were talking about how, like, the impact, like if you're on a jury, or like you abide by the eye for an eye and take a life, like what's that going to mean in other lives? And my thought on that would be, what would be the point of other lives, of reincarnation, of being able to actually learn on a soul level, on a deep level, and to come back and do things differently, if we did not abide by what we believe to be right in this life that we are living? So if there is a juror who believes that somebody deserves to die for what they did, hey, listen, like, I get it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But maybe that choice was just part of what they were meant to experience and part of the choices that they were meant to make and just part of their overall process, because I don't think everybody's on the same page. I don't even think anybody is higher or lower than anybody else as far as like the soul growth or the evolutionary process goes. I think that it's kind of random, and that's what makes it beautiful. You know, we're all different, just like we're all different colors, nationalities, races. We have different belief systems, come from different families, have just different personalities. Like we're all different for a reason. And I think that's because we're all growing together. We're all helping each other, even if it hurts and even if it feels amazing. And maybe someone on that jury, that's exactly the choice they had to make this time around. And I'm not saying it's the right or wrong choice because I'm still struggling with this, but I'm just saying that, like, if that's the choice that that person made, it's probably because that's exactly the choice that they were meant to make. And that's just where they're at. And I'm not saying it's higher. Maybe they're way more advanced than me. And I'm sitting here like, what eye for an eye? Like, come on, let's just love everybody. Maybe I'm the less evolved one. That's totally possible. I don't know. And I probably won't know until I see what's next. I don't know. I'm just saying we're all different and we're all at different stages, in my opinion. And that doesn't mean that everyone should not adhere to their beliefs and adhere to what's right in their hearts. But these are all still things that I think that we should all think about, not just this, but every choice we make and every big decision or even the small ones. I just think I think we all need to focus on making sure that we're being true to ourselves. And if we're true to ourselves, truly and fully, then I think we are doing the best that we can for our own soul's growth, for the world in general, and for everybody that surrounds us right here and right now. I hope I answered your question. I know I went off.
Oh, no, I was okay with that. I think it was very well rounded. Thank you. Look, I don't know if there is an answer to this question. I don't know if there is a universal standard of morality for this one. Just like you said, I think it's something that we may come to understand when we're no longer on this side of things. But I guess that's what's exhilarating about being alive, is that it's just one big lesson. I don't know if this quote originated from Limp Bizkit, but I believe that chill.
Don't cry.
Chill for a second. Hold on. Sometimes even there's wisdom from Limp Bizkit. So there was a line in a song. I believe it was from the song that was in the Mission Impossible 2 on that soundtrack.
Even better.
Life is a lesson, you learn it when you're through. That was the line. I think that's the truth.
You believe in that?
I think there's probably something beyond that, but the lesson of this life, I think you learn it when you're through. And, I think that all these philosophical notions also go hand in hand with that. The meaning of life and so on and so forth, what it's all about. I don't think we're meant to fully know it while we're here. So on that note, Dana, there's a game I've been playing on the show for a little while. It's called the Saturn game.
The Saturn game. All right.
I don't remember if we were playing this yet the first time I had you on. Either that or maybe I just hadn't named it by that point. Well, so you are going to see right now that...
Oh, is this the one where you say, where are you now? Where were you then? Or like pick a little thing and then I have to answer the question?
Yeah, that one. So in this little baggie, I have 4 periods of time, and I'm going to pull one out randomly, and I'm going to ask you a question. Cool?
Cool.
As you can see, I'm not rigging it. You see my hand comes out, not holding anything. It's for the integrity of the game, though, so you saw it the second time I pulled it out. Now, this for the third time, I now have a period of time in my hand. Huh.
Shit.
The options are day, week, month, and year. Dana, how have you grown in the last day?
You can edit this out, right?
If you want me to.
You give me a second.
Huh?
Let me think.
All right.
I don't want to answer this question. God, the last day. That's actually probably the most interesting of the options you could have pulled out.
Maybe that was God working through me.
Yes. Well, in the last day, I have learned that God is funny. And I don't know this for sure, but let's just say I've had some interesting and unexpected things happen in the last day or so. And it was just a day that maybe it was a little nudge from God or just myself realizing what I need to realize at this point. But I had a thought, and my thought was this, and I'm sorry for being cryptic here for all you listeners, but maybe next time I'll get more personal with all this stuff. But for now, God, we had a good day. Anyway, I'm going to keep it cryptic for now.
That's okay.
But I would say that what I've learned in the last day is that I believe that sometimes God shows us what we think we want so that we're able to recognize what we need.
And you learned all that in the last day.
I had that realization in the last day.
That's pretty remarkable.
Well, I mean, the things happened before the last day that might have precipitated that, but like that was the lesson that literally, I think I came to in the last day based on things that happened before that day. But the question was the lesson I learned in the last day, right?
Well, have you grown in the last day? How have you grown in the last day? But that's a huge one. What you just said.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's growth.
I think so.
That God
we'll
sometimes shows us
what we think we want so that we're able to see what we need and always have needed.
Yeah, I'd say that that's growth.
And maybe that what we wanted was never really what we wanted.
Hey, a lot can happen in a day.
I mean, I also watched way too many episodes of The Floor, which is a very dumb reality show. So, I also grew today by learning that, like, I should not go on a trivia show because while I might know a lot of things and the things I care about, I know nothing about all the other things in life. I would be horrible on that game show. So
no one's perfect.
I also grew by learning, like, don't ever go on those shows because I'll just humiliate myself completely. So I learned that too today. So take your pick. less cryptic, metaphorical, but I did learn both of those things.
I like the first one better.
Yeah, right. That's true story. But that's a longer story for another podcast, maybe or never. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, with that, this was your second appearance on the show, and I am very happy with how this turned out. So I would like to formally invite you on for a third episode if you would like to come on.
Already? On air? Why?
Yeah, shut up.
Does this have anything to do with what's that new method? The big one?
The expands method?
Oh, yeah.
It could. I don't know. Yes, no, maybe so. Or we could just talk about ancient Rome or Greek yogurt.
You'd win that on trivia for sure.
Yeah, I didn't say anything.
Yogurt flavors. I'd be passing every time. Anyone that's seen The Floor knows what I'm talking about. You totally win.
They only have 2 flavors there. Well, I mean, they have other flavors, but they only have 2 base flavors for the yogurt. Then they got the option for like the Carbolite. I don't know what that shit is though. Or the ice cream flavor. They got 8 ice cream flavors. I know one of them is dairy free, but I never go for that. I did for a while. Do you see, Dana? I was doing so well, and then you. I guess I the one who brought the Greek yogurt.
Have you started eating yogurt every day again?
No.
I'm so proud of you.
I haven't. So yeah, for everyone who can't see me right now, is it okay if I say it's not too self-aggrandizing, Dana?
Just say it.
So I've lost about 30 pounds. Well, I mean in total in the last 6 months, although we'll just say in the last 6 months. Yeah. So I've only had frozen yogurt probably about 5 or 6 times in that time, which for longtime listeners of the show would know that was a typical week for me before.
Yeah. But if frozen yogurt makes you happy, get the froyo.
Yeah, something's made me too happy.
You know how back in the day, like, have you ever seen like those Renaissance paintings? Like the bigger women, bigger men, like that was a sign of health. That was a
No, that wasn't a sign of health. That was a sign of being in the upper parts of society because you could afford food.
Right.
So
That's
that
what
wasn't a sign of health, though. It was just like fair skin was a sign of beauty because you weren't out in the fields all day.
Isn't it funny how that shifts?
Well, I mean, that's society for you.
So if we were back in those days, your loss of 30 pounds would be a sign of
poverty. Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
I don't give a shit.
I'm just saying, like, what do you think about the way that shifted? What do you think it says about human beings that all of a sudden what used to be beautiful is now no longer attractive, and now what used to be a sign of poverty and famine is now attractive?
Frankly, I'm happy that we no longer associate what is attractive with wealth. I think that's a good thing.
But do we not?
Not always. I mean, look, you're really setting me up for this one, aren't you?
I'm having fun. I don't want to stop yet. Let's do podcast number 2 right after podcast number 1 without a break, and then we just release it in 2 weeks. This would be so fun because we're on a roll talk about all this exciting stuff. Usually we just sort of down each other's throats all the time, because we know each other too well. But this is interesting. Let's do number 2 right off.
Chill.
In number 1.
Let me finish that thought that you set me up for beautifully.
I know, it was so beautiful, right?
I think, no pun intended, right? I think you could have all the money in the world and just be absolutely atrocious. I mean, real shit personality, a good bone structure of the face, but beauty's what's on the inside, right? That's all that really matters at the end of the day.
What is this? What is the phrase? 32, 24, 36. 34, 22.
Is that from a rap song?
Yeah, I'm not a rapper. You understand what I'm getting at, though, right? I don't know.
No, I see what you're saying. It's about the cycles that we go through as a society. How is it that something that was considered attractive a couple hundred years ago is now considered to be less attractive? And how is it that poverty was associated with being skinny? Well, I mean, that's just a no-brainer. But that it wasn't attractive because you were impoverished, or I get it. Yeah. I think the one with the very fair skin, that is an interesting turn to me right there. How the fairer your skin was, you were considered to be more attractive then. Whereas now people go to fucking tanning beds to get that glow because the, bit of color is considered to be more attractive now.
And I think that's the point, is that like there's something that is rooted in evolution.
Yeah.
That is subject to change, where what we find attractive is rooted in the availability of resources. So when resources were less available and abundant, being a little bit more voluptuous was stereotypically more beautiful. And if you were skin and bones, super thin, that was stereotypically not attractive at all. I mean, look at the art. Look at the art portraying beautiful women who were so fucking beautiful, because everyone's beautiful, whatever shape they find themselves in. But I guess the point I'm trying to get to now is how interesting I find it that depending on the availability of resources, depending on where a society finds itself, and it's like what is beautiful is subject to change. And that is not just rooted in what people think is beautiful, but it is very much rooted in evolution and survival. Because when there is less resources, those that seem like they have a lot, people are going to be drawn to them because there is not enough resources. When there's an overabundance, those that have self-control are more attractive.
I'm sorry, was your minor in sociology? I know it was. It was a joke.
No, communications.
It was a joke. Joke, Dana.
No, but that's just, social Darwinism.
Look, I think we're avoiding the most important question here. Did you think I looked better when I was 30 pounds heavier?
Oh my God.
Is that what you're saying? Are you still stuck back in the 1600s right now?
I mean, have you literally lost 30 pounds?
Yeah.
Well, be honest with you. I've always thought you were beautiful for what's on the inside.
Well, that hasn't changed, but thank you.
I can't believe you lost 30 pounds, be honest.
Right?
You still look like you.
Well, I didn't change my face.
I like your face, kind of, most of the time.
Except when you want to punch it.
I don't ever want to punch your face.
You just want to drop kick my face.
No.
Push me down the stairs.
I think you were lovely at all different weights.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, Dana, I want to thank you for coming on again. I absolutely want to have you on again. And as a matter of fact, we're doing a fake goodbye right now because we're going to go record another episode. So, yeah, I'm going to have you on for another one. So thank you for coming on just for an amazing episode. Thank you for... You've had little influences on me. I'm still pretty much the same stubborn bull that I was back in the day, but you have expanded my mind in many ways, and I have belief and faith that you will do the same for the rest of the audience. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. My Cancer moon could be difficult sometimes, and I thank you for dealing with it. And I can't wait for episode 3. And I think you look good, both in with your Renaissance bod and your new modern American bod.
But I don't have that bod.
The 30 pounds heavier bod?
Yeah, I don't have that.
No, but I think you looked good with your Renaissance bod and now with your non-Renaissance bod. Both were equally attractive in my mind.
Well, thank you.
I thank you for having me on. And yes, are we pretending like we're not going to just record the next episode now?
No, we're not pretending because I already said we are.
All right, yeah. So thank you, everybody. Goodbye. I love you all. It was so fun. Bye.
Fellow time travelers, your journey through time awaits you. Just want to thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. And if you're interested in discovering who, when, and where you have been throughout time, and you'd like to book a session with me, just go ahead and send me a message on Instagram at The Past Life Regressionist, or you can reach me through my website, yourpastliferegressionist.com.